I did a no-wave book a couple years ago, and in the course of it, I got in touch with an old friend of mine and asked her if she had, you know, artifacts around. And she went through a bunch of stuff, and she said, "Oh, I found all the letters you sent me from the late '70s." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So I pulled them out, and they were, you know, they were sort of interesting. And then when I told Benoit about it, he was like, "Oh, yes, you should put those in." So, anyway, they have a mix of different stuff. These were letters that I wrote to Angela Yeager. This one was a letter from San Francisco, number 2, December 1978. Sitting around Frisco drinking Rainier Ale, the half-and-reffer of the West Coast, listening to Beefheart and smoking yet another pack of Chesterfields, I have now saved over 200 gift coupons. Main news item is my recent employment by the company started by Mr. Ray Kroc. McDonald's is certainly a wonderful environment for a young man such as myself, and my horrible, ugly Filipino supervisor has assured me that I can go far here, as I am quite apt at hamburger management. All I can say is I spend every waking hour looking for another job. I can't believe these stiffs. Most of them are foul white trash with rotten teeth. White trash, white fucking trash. This ain't no Chris Mako's photo book, this is real life. I can't believe these miserable twerps. They won't shut up. They want to talk about their rotten lives. They dress like shit. They tell rotten jokes. They all smoke cools. They spell shitty. They think wedding is spelled wadding. They won't believe me when I tell them different. They think I'm trying to fuck them up. The manager is an asshole. His name is Manny. He has rotten skin. He smells like shark bait. Everything is greasy. They only have Diet 7-Up. All the food is stale. I have to be at work at 6 a.m. sharp. They made me buy black pants. Jeans are no good. I have to shave every morning. I can't drink beer on the job. My pants won't hold a crease. I don't stutter. When I get off work at 2, I sell blood. I walk to work. Sometimes it's raining. I quit. Well, actually, I haven't quit yet. But I have an interview at a photo store on Monday, so maybe I'll quit then. I haven't seen my Devo article yet, but I'm sure Andy cut some stuff out. The only thing I know for sure he excised was the part about Kenny Rogers puking blood and absinthe all over a young girl as he got out of his yellow limousine. Although I swore in my mom's beard I was just telling it like I saw it, he saw through my little ruse and took it out anyway. C'est la vie. I really hope to write a big article for him called "Wish They Could All Be California Girls? Think Again, Sport," describing how all the bands out here that have girls in them are about as much fun as a spoiled cat with worms and whine just as loud. I had originally planned to write a sort of Viva Girls type piece, but after seeing a couple of these bands, I realized I have to take different tack. Naomi Ruth Eisenberg, ex-Dance Hicks, was as pleasant as a Rat Felcher's picnic, and the others were just as bad. I was really waiting for something great of Naomi too, because Rockette Morton, ex-Beefheart, was in her band. Turns out the high point of her act is the 4-minute interlude before she comes on stage when Rockette does the tune Winged Tuscadero, no relation to Pinky Tuscadero of Happy Days fame, that he originally did with Mallard. So much for the girls out here. They all treat me like a syphilitic boll weevil, and if I can get revenge, believe me, I will. As far as major concerts go, the only one I've been to lately was the second to last show ever at Winterland. The Tubes and the Ramones on the 28th of December. Day after my 22nd birthday of all things. The opening band was ex-Airplane Jack Cassidy's SVT, his new wave band. They sucked. The Ramones were great, and the Tubes, with their new Less Is More stage show, played for about an hour and a half too long. The only truly wonderful parts of their 3-hour set were the Fee rap about fucking cows, very humorous in a local sort of way, and the Baba O'Reilly Kids Are All Right segue. For the first hour or so, I was pressed right against the stage, no seats on the floor, and it was very uncomfortable. People there told me it was more compressed than it had been for the Pistols, where a friend of mine passed out and remained standing for the 45 minutes it took to revive him. The actual set was pretty boring, at least in comparison to the LSD freakout it had the night before. What happened was my roommate had gone back east. I was left to fend for myself in our fairly spacious apartment. Friends had previously supplied us with a supply of pure mescaline, psilocybin, LSD, and D-meth, the quarter of methamphetamine that is the active isomer, so I was well stocked in drugs. The night of the 27th, this being my birthday, I decided to get fucked up. I ate a lot of mescaline and then decided, what the heck, I'll do some acid too. The LSD was in a vial in the freezer. If you've never seen raw LSD, you can't imagine how small our container of 25 to 30, 250 microgram hits is. I decided to dose myself by licking the end of a matchstick and eating whatever stuck. In 5 to 10 minutes, I was fucked up, as the hippies say. And I sat at the dining room table listening to the local new wave radio show, which happened to be playing exclusively Phil Spector stuff as it was his birthday. I was reading the Melody Maker article about the Be Stiff tour and watching Mutiny on the Bounty out of the corner of my eye. I first saw that flick at Radio City Music Hall in '64 or so and loved it. Reading the article was taking time. Occasionally I'd look up and survey the scene on and across the street. Full well knowing that I was whacked on drugs, it still seemed as if there was a great deal of well-lighted activity going on out there. All of a sudden I heard ambulance sirens and turned to look up to catch Marlon Brando's gaze on the TV. At that instant, everything gelled, and I realized that it was time for me to die, and I immediately hallucinated flying across the table, smashing through the window, and being run over by an auto on the street below. It was wild. I was really scared. Everywhere I turned, this was the specter of death. As I walked to my room, I saw the shotgun and shells in Corey's room. Once in my room, I only saw my straight razor and the 4-story drop out the back window. I figured I just had to keep my mind off it, as even when I poured myself a ginger ale, I hallucinated a counter full of broken glass and blood. A trip to the kitchen only made me think of all the knives there. When I tried to purge myself by writing down my feelings, I suddenly realized that it had the tone of a suicide note. Yikes! I finally got a hold of my old Hampshire pal, Josh, who lives out here, but he would only joke around because I sounded so normal. And none of my friends can believe I would ever take too much acid, as I used to eat more of it than anyone had ever seen. Eventually, it was around 4 a.m. on the East Coast, I decided to call an old friend of mine who works on a crisis counseling line. I woke her up, much to the chagrin of her boyfriend. We talked for a while. Last I felt better, and rather than run up a totally unbelievable phone bill, I chose to call a local crisis line. This real dumb jerk answered and proceeded to tell me of all the troubles he'd had, and told me to go to a bar and meet a girl. What? I couldn't fucking believe it. Here was this ridiculous turd telling me to go out, pick up a girl, then I'd be okay. I had to hear about the technique he used to such great success only 3 weeks earlier. I just started talking to her, and now she's one of my best friends. Huh? Come on! In the middle of his pickup tips, I realized, well, at least I'm not this asshole. How bad off can I be? I felt sorry, insulted for the dope, and I hung up. At that moment, I wasn't high. The only explanation I can give for this sudden sobriety is that I willed myself down. I'd only been high about 2 hours, and the mescaline lasted for 12, LSD for 6, but I was down. Neat. I was real happy. It was strange, though. The next time I do hallucinogens, I suppose I'll do them with people around. Hard to keep an eye on yourself, but what the hey.